Hi everyone. As you can tell, I am from England, so I will speak slowly. I've been told I speak very fast. So, nice to meet all of you. Thank you very much for attending and joining this session today. Today is, of course, our little bit around how we can drive and really, I'd say, transform and do experimentation across the entire customer journey. Now, my name is Simon Chapman. As you can see, I do have the longest job title in Optimisation, as you can see. And so with that, it means that, of course, I look after our relationship technically with Content Square. And so what it means is I get to meet all the wonderful customers that use Content Square, but also use us and how they can best use our platform. So, Rupert, how about yourself?
So I'm Rupert. I think I might have the longest job title in Evoke. I live in Gibraltar, and a little bit about Evoke. We are a company in the sports betting and gaming space. You might know us through our brands like William Hill, Mr. Green, and 888. I don't think we're in Sweden, but generally pretty global.
No, very good. And so obviously we'll go through today, it's more of a Q&A today, talking about how you're doing, the things that you're doing at your organization. And so with that, of course, what we'll do is move into a bit of a view of us and Content Square first.
The needs of your customers are rapidly evolving. To consistently deliver experiences that resonate with customers, your business must be equipped to adapt to change in a fast-paced world. Optimisely's industry-leading digital experience platform combines content, commerce, progressive delivery, and experimentation capabilities to power personalized customer experiences across all digital channels. With Optimisely's world-class experimentation capabilities, digital teams can easily create, test, and optimize experiences at scale. But smart experimentation isn't just about running tests. To drive meaningful change, you need to test the right things at the right time. So how do you choose which test to run? Meet Content Square, an advanced analytics solution designed to help digital teams quickly understand where to focus in the user experience journey and why. Content Square provides unique customer behavior insights to guide your experimentation efforts, allowing you to dive deeper into your experiments to figure out why a test won or lost and what to do next. Together, Optimisely and Content Square help teams to move faster, innovate with confidence, and drive greater value from customer actions.
Now, I couldn't have said that better myself, of course. So that gives you a small snapshot. If you want to see more details about exactly what that means in terms of how those two solutions integrate, please do come and visit our booth. And so obviously, moving into the detail and talking through the first question, asking you this straightforward question. You're using both Optimisely and Content Square. What's been your journey with us so far?
So we started with Optimisely 5 years ago, probably around the same time as Kapal, actually. And at the time, we'd been experimenting for about 4 years. We had a program which was fairly ad hoc, and we'd basically had a decision from the business which said we needed to re-platform, not related to experimentation, but there it is. And so we went through an RFP and we said, okay, Optimisely meets our requirements. And at the time that was, we needed a front-end tool that could inject JavaScript and could deal with targeting, particularly lists of customers, which is how we did it at the time, where we would upload them into the tool and we'd say, okay, they're going to go to experience A, experience B, whatever it was going to be. I think when we actually got Optimisely, our program changed almost immediately. We had been of the view we're just going to continue the way we're doing it. There wasn't really any buy-in from senior management, so we were just going to keep going. And what Optimisely did is two things. First off, we had a long period of integration. And we spoke with our tech teams, we spoke with Optimisely tech teams, and that really set us up with buy-in from our own business, which seems a bit of a strange thing, but Previously, we'd always had this thing of, we don't trust the tool, we don't trust the implementation, we don't trust the data, so any experiments that happened wouldn't really go anywhere. At the same time, we had a lot of chats with program experts from Optimisely, and that really changed our perception of what we wanted to do. So we set up a goal tree, we came up with a North Star metric, and we went to senior management and said, buy into this. This is going to make a big difference to the way we work as a business. And they bought in. And all of a sudden, all of the product teams were saying, I've been given this, I really want to start A/B testing immediately. So we had a huge change in the way the business approached us and the way we approached the business. And that really then started to drive experimentation in a really different way. What that also did is it raised a really big question about scalability. We had a single team, we did all of the experiments, we did all of the ideation and the analytics and everything else. And that wasn't scalable. I mean, you can hire loads more people, but practically you're not going to. The business is saying they want to do more with no more people ever. So we then said, how are we going to do more when we're already doing more than we can handle? And the answer actually came basically from Optimisely's platform, which was, we won't do anything anymore. We're going to get product to do their own work. So we went through a process of training up all our product teams, getting them into the tool, getting them to learn how to build their own tests, getting them to do all of the integration and things like that. And we then came to our second issue, which was, how do we get them to understand the data? Because we can't do we can't do endless reports all the time and keep on looking at all of our metrics and saying, what about this little thing over here and what about this point over there? So we then had this question of, we had GA, it's a good tool, but is it that user-friendly for a non-data person to go in and say, I'm going to find my pain point and I'm going to be able to find it really easily. And that's where Content Square then came in sort of 18 months, 2 years later, is we wanted to get our product teams into the data. So we got Content Square on board. We did, I'm not sure how many workshops, but a lot of workshops with all of our different product teams where we got them into the tool. And the result is where we are now, where we have each product team is enabled to do their own work. And I provide expertise, I guess.
Very good. No, thank you. And obviously you've moved on to our next question sort of already about reasons why you chose both platforms. Like, what would be one sort of distinct reason why you think you chose both Content Square and Optimisely?
So I think with Optimisely, we chose it because it fit a need.
Yep.
I think now I would say its flexibility and particularly things around permissions and extensions and things like that make it really powerful. With Content Square, I think the wow moment was when we got into the tool and we saw it for the first time and we said, and the demonstrator said, look, you just click on here and you can see the entire journey. And you go over here and you can see all the zoning and all the values. And that was a moment where we went, this is going to transform the way our teams consume data.
Understood. No, and so basically that was a pretty solid reasons, to be frank, and obviously based on your success that you've had, it's embedded within your teams as well, isn't it? So pretty good from that perspective. Moving on in terms of the next piece, actually, I want to talk about a different question that we have, and there's a significant difference between how organizations run major versus micro experiments. And from your experience, I know it's a really difficult question to answer, but how big should an experiment be, and what are the things that you feel that people should be careful of?
Maybe I'll start. We have a mix. So we have big experiments and small experiments. I don't want to say to you, you must run all of your experiments and they must be enormous.
Yep.
I think what's worth considering is that big experiments tend to deliver big results. So big experiments are good. What you also need to do is when you've run that big experiment is iterate, and that's where your smaller experiments come in. At least in the case of Evoke, that's how we work. We tend to have a list of big ideas. We'll do a test, and then we'll iterate on that test over 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, however long it's going to be.
So do you use a gold tree like we've heard earlier, ideas, ideation, all of those steps
so
as well?
that's where Content Square really fits in terms of ideation. We identify the pain points, and then everyone comes into a session from different teams, so from UX, from product, from even from legal, and we say, here's the pain point, just throw out ideas. Whatever they are, they can be completely mad, but just throw them out anyway, and we'll stick them all up and we'll say, first, can we do them? Because legal will turn around and say, no, you can't do that, quite a lot. But we will do that, and then we will say, okay, what's the size, what's the upside? And we'll have a list and we'll go through them. And for each idea we test, we say, okay, what if we tweak this little bit over here? Your first version is never your best. So we keep on going. And there's a point where you say, we're getting diminishing returns here, let's move on.
No, that's fair. And so obviously moving to a poll, and obviously we love a bit of audience participation, so therefore there's a scan here. We said about Slido, and so do you test multiple ideas at the same time, and how do you determine success? And of course, scan the QR code just there, and we will show some live results. Now, obviously we'll ask the question to yourself, Rupert, in a second, but interesting to see what you think in the audience in terms of this particular question. Oh, it's a live poll too. I love that. Yes, of course we do. So it's interesting. I always like doing these polls because it varies by market when we ask similar questions of different audiences. And so testing multiple ideas, of course we do, but you'll find there's even some people say, no, we'd never consider it. Absolutely not. Now, if I ask that same question, obviously, thank you for everyone in the audience there. I think we've got it depends, of course, is the obvious answer. But yes, of course we do. What about yourself, of course? If we were asking you the same question, how would you feel about that?
I'm not going to say, of course we do, but yes, we do test multiple ideas at the same time. It becomes a necessity with our model because we have so many teams in the tool. You can't have it's your turn, then it's your turn, then it's your turn. So you get teams doing different things at the same time. With some teams, that's not really a problem. You'll have teams working in completely different areas of the website with different journeys and different audiences. And in that case, we just let them get on with it. I think there were some people saying we wouldn't consider it. Obviously, depends how your site is set up. There are some instances where we will stop teams testing for a period of time. If you're doing a particularly big test, I think it sort of makes sense. Maybe you limit the number of tests going on around it. But yeah, generally I would do a lot of tests. And I would say as well, just in terms of determining success, if you're going to run tests in the same space, then consider a multivariate test, something like that. Gives you the ability to see the different combinations together and apart.
No, thank you. And moving on to the next question, of course, and obviously very particular to your industry, what kinds of things do you look for in website performance? It could also be app performance as well. So rage, click, speed, errors, all of the things that can impact the customer journey. Was it all of those?
They come up. Different teams have their metrics. So, rage clicks really comes up with onboarding teams. Errors comes up with everyone, basically, because you get errors all over the place. And speed comes up as well in a couple of different ways. So from our product team, they look at speed from the point of view of more like time to complete a goal. And that can be number of clicks, number of interactions, number of pages, whatever it is. Separately, we do have speed, as in page load speed, as a core goal of the business. So that is just constant. Every conversation is what's happening to page load speed, what are you doing? And that's something really important to think about when you're building tests particularly is that you're not impacting that too much.
That's fair. I think that one resonates with a lot of people, to be frank. So yeah, that's a good one. Now, second question for our audience is a contentious one. How long should you run an experiment for, in your opinion? And is there a right or a wrong answer to this question now? That's a pretty subjective one. Please scan the QR code and give us your thoughts. Now, it depends on what success looks like, of course. Now, one of the things the reason we ask this question is there's a danger sometimes when people run an experiment that it doesn't become an experiment, it becomes a permanent. They just leave the test running forever. And of course, it then becomes difficult to actually then know what success felt like because it's mixed in with other noise, other characteristics, and other things that can impact the quality of the success metrics being calculated. So it absolutely depends on what success looks like. And if I was to ask yourself the same question, what would you think? It depends.
I mean, it depends. It does depend. I would actually say, at least in the case of evoke, we have a minimum length of time rather than an absolute. So we would say we want to run a test for a minimum of 2 normal business cycles, which is 2 weeks. And what that does is that means that hopefully you're getting a representative set of data, and you're not getting any sort of strange events which are skewing your test results. In terms of how long it goes on for, it's a case of what's the appetite of the business to wait. You do have all these different people saying, when's it going to finish? When's it going to finish? The second you start. And I think as well, you have that case of what point do you say it's just been going on too long, we're not going to get a result. So there's probably a too long answer and there's a too short answer, but I don't think there's a definite, you have to go for this long.
No, understood. And one final follow-up on that is that would you say it differs depending on the channel or depends on the kind of time of year? Is there any characteristics where you would run different kinds of tests or experiments?
Channel, yes. I mean, marketing is obviously a little bit of a different beast. You can't say, I'm going to run a marketing campaign for 2 weeks when you've got an event that takes 2 hours.
Yep.
So your marketing tests are always going to be shorter. And I think you sort of say it's a separate thing almost. It's not related to, it's a different type of experimentation. In terms of if
you can't think
lost my train of thought there.
No, it's all good. No, in terms of obviously what I was getting at was basically, is there a seasonality to it? So basically in terms of, is it particular, like for example, there could be a particular event you mentioned, but also like maybe the weather changes, maybe there's something else that happens that affects an overall outcome or an event that you need to quickly pivot towards and then run different experiments.
Yes, so I suspect this is the same for quite a lot of people, but sports betting in particular is very seasonal.
Yep.
And it is impacted a lot by the weather. So if people are outside, maybe they're doing something else. If there are different events on, so a normal weekend for us is, a normal week is one where there is football at the weekend. That is what we consider normal. If there's no football at the weekend, a lot of people disappear. And then that's not really representative of the customers we're looking for. So maybe we don't test at that point.
Fair. No, that makes sense. No, thank you. And so with that, obviously, that's concluded that particular section. What we want to do as well is open it up now for any potential questions that we have, both from the audience but also online. I know that there are better people at monitoring what's going on online, but basically to invite you an opportunity to ask Rupert or myself about anything that's burning in your minds in terms of experiments. Or we've stunned you to silence.
Okay, we have one from the online. So
go ahead.
I'm first, so maybe I can go ahead. When you scaled up the experimentation by establishing the tools within the product teams, how could you prove the return on time invested in the teams initially?
That's a really challenging question.
Yeah.
So we look at it from the point of view of what is the return on experimentation rather than the return on a particular team. So we have an overall program tracking where we're saying these are the number of tests we're running. You know, maybe we're aiming for more tests per year or something like that. And at the same time, with the goal tree, we're linking in and we're saying this is the change that's happening in these different areas, and that's what it means for our North Star metric.
Got it. Any